This is Dark Days Radio, episode number 55. I'm one of your hosts, Mike, and tonight I'm joined by, of course, Chris.
Hello.
And then the legendary Sand Chigger. How's it going, Chigg?
Pretty good. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing damn fine. Yep, I haven't really been gaming at all still, but, after I get this licensure exam out of the way, it's going to be on hardcore. How about you guys?
I have not done really any gaming for the last few weeks because I've had work stuff to do. But no, I've been painting. So there's some stuff up on the blog, which is more stuff for the hybrid game. I've had some good feedback from that. Oh, and I've been writing, obviously. So
That's right. You got something new going on. Can you even talk about that?
I guess I can say what I'm working on because that's fine. Well, not what exactly I'm working on. I can say what I'm working on. So yeah, I'm now doing some freelance writing for FASA and for Fading Suns.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good job, Chris.
Thank you very much. Current project is good. I'm enjoying it. And I think the project after that will allow me a bit more room for, being a bit more creative and new stuff. Because obviously, they've re-released recently. I say re-released. They've released their Games Masters book. And the thing is with that book and the one they brought out before, it really does consolidate a lot of old material. So there's it's the same thing when you get a new edition. There's a lot of reconsolidation of material out there. So that happens, but also it gives you a good chance to re-examine stuff. So it's fun. It's good. Just got to write lots.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Chris, you and Peter Marshall did a really excellent review in one of our Darkling episodes discussing Fading Suns, which is pretty White Wolf related since it's the brainchild of both Bill Bridges and Andrew Greenberg, who...
Yes, indeed. I mean, it is kind of like, I guess you would say it is a World of Darkness cousin of sorts, because you only have to look at the artwork. It shares a lot of similar art style to Werewolf the Apocalypse in places. A lot of the the black and white kind of artwork. So a lot of stuff is shared in there, as well as writers themselves. So yeah, and there's some exciting stuff on the horizon related to it as well. And yeah, just gonna write, and it's changed what I'm mostly gonna run next after I finish my Iron Kingdoms campaign. I'm mostly gonna run Fading Suns, so I can, chuck some ideas in there and play test some things, and just get the brain thinking about these things more.
Nice, excellent. And of course, Chigg, you've been exploring the world of Eclipse Phase quite a bit, and your character, who's essentially the driver of the group, has actually been doing some pretty sweet stuff, hasn't he?
Yeah. Our one-shot, just to test the system, has apparently evolved itself into a fun little campaign, and we're having some fun out there.
You're not going to tell everyone about how you drove a space station?
I did drive a space station into the sun, but there was a good reason for it. It was infected with a horrible, horrible mutagen virus and was going to kill us all. So it was either the space station or us, and I think I made the right decision.
Absolutely. Always save your own skin. Excellent. So this is going to be kind of a speed episode this week where we talk about Mage 20th. So we're going to be skipping over a couple things, not too much for news or the mailbag. But one thing we do want to bring up, of course, is that there's a new kid on the block, a new World of Darkness podcast, and that's Midnight Express. So, for those of you that haven't found it yet, Midnight Express is a show by two former members of our Rogue Council, Adrian Stagg and Stephen Nurse. So, we are pretty excited about this. Of course, Adrian has a lot of experience both on Darker Days and with his own previous podcast, Mirage Arcana. And Steve's been on the show, Darker Days Radio, in a lot of Darkling episodes, and also that one episode where we reviewed the Onyx Path schedule. I think that was back in Season 3. So, definitely very well experienced, and of course they are, I would almost say at this point, legends of the World of Darkness community. So, definitely very exciting. And of course, I believe both of you, Chris and Chigg, you've checked out the show so far?
I've listened to episode 0.
Episode 0.
Yeah. So they're gonna.
And I just checked. It is now available on iTunes.
All right, cool.
Excellent. So, of course, we wish Stephen and Adrian the best of luck, and we'll definitely check back on them in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Any other opening comments for this episode, guys, or should we move on over to the Secret Frequency?
Ooh, anything new on... So we'll be doing a few things with the Darker Days blog, so it's not just going to have toy soldiers being posted up on there. I put up recently... Yeah, well, people like pictures, so, you know...
They're very nice toy soldiers, I'm not going to lie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, they're also horror-based, so there might be some visual inspirations there for something. But we will be slowly moving over, doing some rearrangements. So Sam's going to put up some more of her movie reviews directly onto the blog there because it's useful. And I have put up a blog post about the TV series Hannibal and how you can replicate some of the characters and basically use that series as kind of a template for a Hunter the Vigil game. So there are suggestions there on you know what merits and so forth to use from God Machine Chronicles and from the excellent World of Darkness book Slasher.
Outstanding. Cool. And I think with that, let's move on over to the Secret Frequency.
It's under the stairs. I love my mom.
The Alaskan Way Viaduct is a $4.25 billion transportation project in downtown Seattle that's run into some issues. Much of the project consists of below-grade tunneling, with a 60-foot diameter cylindrical boring machine named Big Bertha burrowing beneath the streets of Seattle. It's a highly intricate project, with a dozen engineering firms involved, carefully monitoring the progress, setting up instrumentation throughout the city, including a new system of closed-circuit television and numerous black boxes. In December 2013, the operation came to a halt. Bertha's blades were breaking down as the machine encountered something. It's not a boulder. Bertha could break down any such thing. And it's definitely not a steel pipe, because they've previously encountered one of those. So there Bertha sits, 120 feet below the city, as engineers scratch their heads. But was this really unexpected? In the World of Darkness, this simple construction setback could lead to many intriguing stories. On the more mundane side, perhaps Bertha encountered a tendril of magma extending from Mount St. Helens. While this exposed magma might not directly impact the mortal world, what might it lead to across the gauntlet? Could a powerful being that the Uratha locked away in the 1980s eruption be unleashed once more? Part of Bertha's technology is based on diamond-tipped blades and rollers, so perhaps it was solid blocks of diamond at the bedrock surface that broke the boring machine. But how could that mineral have formed there, with only the cool and soft Seattle soil above it? Perhaps the energy of Pyros is coursing through the earth here, leading to an unlikely milestone on a Promethean's pilgrimage. The heightened monitoring with CCTV and black boxes might not even be related to drilling at all. Seattle is a hotbed for intrigue, for the unchained demons, and it may be that mortal authorities, influenced by angels, are slowly closing in on them. This drilling might also have some strange impacts in the Shadowlands of Wraith the Oblivion. Perhaps the drilling in the mortal world is actually reflected in the Seattle necropolis, with soil eroding away each night. The local hierarchy would be terrified that this erosion could lead to a nihil, a maw in the Shadowlands crust leading to the Tempest, and with it, the legions of hateful specters. Only by sabotaging this drilling could they stop the destruction of their black fortress in the cold, dead lands. Finally, let's consider Hunter the Reckoning. Perhaps a group of operators and field engineers are imbued by the messengers and given a message to break down the machine. They do it, and though they don't know why, and they continue with their lives, knowing nothing of the monsters around them. When the second sight finally activates weeks later, as they meet a bulbous creature claiming to be a construction company's CEO, what will they do? So, guys, got any ideas for this peculiar event under the earth?
Obviously, when this first turned up in the news, obviously there was no, there was mystery about the nature of this object, because of course how difficult it is to get to the to see what is ahead of the drilling machine. You know, you have to shut it all down and go through a series of essentially airlocks to get to the front and to see what's ahead of the actual drill bit itself. But it's been resolved that what it was some old pipe somehow pushed down into the earth. So I would go with, given what it is, and that this thing has some sort of paper trail with regard to when it was put into the earth back in apparently 2002 and so forth. What if this pipe is the remnants of an infrastructure of the God Machine, and while this pipe was used something to do with enabling more structural stability in the area by siphoning off water out of the land around it and so forth. What if it's actually something more akin to that? I know it's manipulating some sort of energy which is important for the God Machine's own plans, and of course it's been left behind. But in the time that the God Machine has left it there, this pipe has become a hive for some sort of spiritual, spirit entities that have, gathered, fed on the etheric energy that has been gathering there, and we're just waiting for the time to be released, which is now.
Intriguing. Yeah, it could be also interesting simply to have a piece of infrastructure that collects etheric resonance, and therefore when it breaks, well, there's just aether everywhere, which could superpower all of the demons and angels in the area, which could lead to some high-powered conflicts, to say the least. And it might also lead or attract many other Unchained from surrounding areas, just to kind of use this place as a sort of siphon of some sort, which could kind of destabilize politics or make things more dangerous for the demons that actually currently reside there in Seattle.
Another idea with the pipe, and of course it's pointing downwards, maybe the actual steel of the pipe is covered in some form of arcane runes, and which enables it to resonate with essence and etheric energy, and it essentially holds open a gateway to some sort of other realm. I say this because I've been reading through Demon Descent, and there's one of the powers, one of the exploits is completely insane, and so the idea of say a group of demons use that power and then use this device and this material to keep that hole in reality open, that allows them to go to this pocket realm, which is their own maybe personal hell that they've made.
Interesting. And what if it's just sitting right there underneath Seattle? It could be interesting. Chigg, do you have any ideas?
I have a couple of ideas, yeah. In the old world of darkness, of course. My first idea when I read it was, well, if it can bore through boulders and it can go through steel pipes like there's nothing there, then it must obviously be something stronger than a steel pipe or just a large rock. So clearly it's a Primium construct buried under Seattle. It makes perfect sense when you think about it. Primium being the super metal that mages use. So there are only 3 groups that really use Premium in their constructions, and if it was the Iteration X, well, they wouldn't be digging there in the first place because Iteration X would never have let them approve those plans. So it's either the Sons of Ether or the Knights Templar, either of which is a fun idea, but personally I would go with the Knights Templar because they're just more fun. Well, not that the Etherites aren't fun, but for this idea, it's a vast ancient trove of knowledge and Templar treasure from the old world.
Whoa, 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 whoa. You're gonna have to explain this to me. The Knights Templar are super mages? Is that what's going on here? You gotta explain to me the background of this, Chigg.
Well, of course they are. Don't be silly. The Knights Templar are are one of many various disparate crafts that exist in Mage. They are a group who fight against the Order of Reason and try to bring worship of God and Christianity, which the Order of Reason, being against all gods and religions, wanted to go ahead and eradicate. Since the Order of Reason is now the technocracy, the Knights Templar are a very, very small group who, as of around 2000, were partially absorbed by the Celestial Chorus.
Ah, intriguing. All right, Chigg, and do you have any other, changeling ideas? You gotta have at least one, come on.
Well, it could just be a buried freehold, like Goblin Town in New York. So, Goblin Town, West Coast.
Okay. That's pretty interesting.
But there's really not a lot there that changelings could use to keep massive drilling creatures out. So that's why I went with Mage this time.
It could be that it's some sort of a bygone creature. For example, maybe it's just a dragon underneath the earth. I think that's actually an idea in Shadowrun. Wasn't there a dragon that exploded out of Mount St. Helens? Or is that Mount Fuji?
There was a dragon that came out of at least one volcano, but I believe it was in Germany.
There's no volcanoes in Germany. Okay.
Oh, it was a mountain then.
It became a volcano. Because there was a dragon in there. Nice.
When the dragon flies out, it becomes a volcano.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Any other interesting ideas regarding this really minor Seattle event? I can tell you, I tried to look for some conspiracy theories online, and I really didn't find any. I just got secret bunker and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's kind of boring and lame. It could be a piece of the Celestial Ladder from Mage the Awakening.
So, That's interesting. Yes. Actually, it could be some sort of ruins from a bygone age. Perhaps some far-flung part of the Nameless Empire, or some sort of echo from another timeline that never came to be in Mage the Awakening.
Yeah, it could also be... I'm trying to think of some other interesting ideas. It would be, because of its location and, it's deep in the earth, and that has resonance with the underworld, it could be an old facility of Orpheus. So they use it as a way of easily accessing the underworld because it had the right resonance to open gateways directly in.
Yeah, absolutely.
It could be a Nosferatu hangout deep under the ground.
It could be a Warren, yes. It's a little deep underground for them. They usually
go.
seem to co-opt existing infrastructure, but you never know. Maybe they got some money to throw around.
Well, if it was a pipe, like Chris said, then perhaps that is the co-opting that went on.
Nice. All right. So I think that's it for the secret frequency. So let's move on over to the classic World of Darkness.
Classic World of Darkness.
So, for those of you that don't know, there's currently a Kickstarter going on for the Mage 20th Anniversary Edition Deluxe book. I, of course, am very excited about this. Chigg's extremely excited about this. And Chris is our...
I could take or leave.
And Chris is our resident skeptic, I'd say. So he's going to kind of ask the tough questions about this book.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good Kickstarter, but I would say... I've not pledged for any of the physical copies of any of the 20th anniversary ones, simply because I just don't have the space and I don't know when I would run them, honestly. I have too much fun with New World of Darkness as it is that I don't know how I would fit this stuff in amongst everything else. But yeah, I mean, it's great to see it coming back, and I think some of the FAQs that we'll be looking at, some of the questions here, may or may not address some important points about how Mage of the Ascension fits into still a valid game for this time, since it's almost 10 years since they killed the World of Darkness.
It is,
well,
yeah, it's 10 years.
Classic World of Darkness.
Whoa.
Mhm.
Nice. So, as Chris alluded to, there's actually some nice FAQs on the Onyx Path website, which we're going to link in the show notes. And we're kind of going to be following those along as we discuss Mage 20, and can use it as our basic structure, but we'll probably go off on a lot of crazy tangents and debates. I'm sure, especially with Chigg around and his endless knowledge of Mage of the Ascension.
I don't know what you're talking about when you say tangents, and
Nope.
we never do
Okay,
that.
sorry.
You're
I must have
laser
been
focused
confused
here
with a different
at Darker
podcast.
Days.
So, with that, well, let's start off easy. Question number 1. What is Mage of the Ascension? Chigg, can you just give us just a couple sentences? Just kind of give us the basic feel and vibe of Mage of the Ascension.
Mage the Ascension is a game originally intended to be about a group of people who have beliefs that they can impose on reality. In the original setting, back when the bad guys were clear and defined, the game was about people who had rather antiquated beliefs about reality versus the evil modern science. The game has evolved since then, like all the old World of Darkness games did, to show that the good guys aren't always that great and the bad guys aren't always that horrible. So the game is still one about belief and pushing humans toward a specific fate, but what fate is best for humanity is left up to each individual player and group.
Absolutely. I think the core thing that we also need to discuss is that there's really 4 basic factions. I'm going to say that in kind of quotation marks because they're, except for the technocracy, they're all very disparate. So, of course, we have the original good guys, who I'd say are still the primary protagonists of the setting, and they are the traditions, which are really a bunch of disparate groups all brought together, mostly because they don't want to be a part of or support these other 3 core factions. So you've got a variety of different beliefs and philosophies all tentatively working together in this Ascension War. So, for example, you have the Sons of Ether that you mentioned before. They're, in some ways, mad scientists, other ways just dreamers trying to come up with new and interesting technology. And then you might also have the Celestial Chorus that Chigg, you also mentioned, who are mostly trying to bring about or support belief systems, mostly in higher deities. But they're not exactly Christianity. In some ways they used to be, but they really support a lot of different belief systems overall at this time. And another one just to throw out there.
The Celestial Chorus.
Yeah.
The breakdown that I use for the 9 traditions is where they believe magic comes from and what it is at its core. Each one of them has a very broad core belief. The Celestial Chorus, for instance, believe that magic comes from a supreme being. Now, that could be God, it could be the devil, it could be anything bigger than yourself. It believes that magic comes from something bigger than the mage, and the mage is given the ability to work magic by this larger being.
Absolutely. And then, of course, the other 3 factions beyond the traditions are the Nefandi, the Marauders, and the Technocracy, which really represent 3 core ideas which are very popular in the classic World of Darkness. That being entropy for the Nefandi, chaos for the Marauders, and then stasis for the Technocracy. Chigg, since you are far more eloquent when it comes to Mage. Perhaps you could just give like 2 sentences on each of those factions.
Okay, I can try. The Technocratic Union are the aforementioned evil mad scientist guy. Well, not mad, but evil scientist people. Originally, they were shown as gray-faced bad guys, a la the Matrix. They hunt down people who have different beliefs and kill or mind wipe them into being recruited. Since the game line went on, like I said, the definition of who's good and who's bad has kind of broadened because I, for one, enjoy having the internet here and running water, so the Technocratic Union isn't entirely bad. They do have some good ideas. So while they originally embodied stasis, like Mike said, you can't really have stasis in science. There's always a new idea, a new goal to reach. But yes, it's a different viewpoint than the traditionalist beliefs. Marauders, which Mike says are a group, are not really even a group. They are mages of any type who have fallen to insanity. And if you are somebody who can invest reality with your will and change reality to your will, and you go insane, then very little good can come of that. Nefandi, when I said earlier that there are groups that have good ideas and groups that have bad ideas, I was specifically talking about everybody except the Nefandi, who, for various reasons, whether they worship Cthulhu or whether they are just horrible, horrible people to begin with, want to destroy reality. They want to drag it all down and make the hurting stop. They might have, from their point of view, a good reason to do this. I mean, it's all relative, I suppose, if you think that you're going to rule at Cthulhu's right hand, or if you think that really reality is horrible and it should end. I mean, that's as valid a point of view as any, I suppose, but it's not one that I espouse myself. And so traditionalists and technocrats alike work to stop the Nefandi from destroying literally everything in existence.
Absolutely. And one of the interesting facets of the Nefandi is that they introduce the fact that, you know what, it might not be their fault that they're that way. They might have just been born that way with a broken avatar, which is kind of an interesting element, kind of a sad thing to consider when you're, facing them down.
Yeah, it's tough that they had a poor, horrible upbringing or whatever, or that they were just born that way, but sucks for them,
Yep.
but I like my reality existing, so
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So, that's Mage the Ascension. And, the next point is, isn't Mage kind of 90s? And I'm actually going to read out Phil Brucato's answer. Phil is the... Satyros Phil Brucato is the line developer for Mage 20th, and he wrote up these FAQs. So I'm going to read out his answer to isn't Mage kinda 90s? He says, quote, "Nope. Mage is dynamic, not static. The original 1993 Mage was a product of its time. This one reflects our 21st century era. And although you can Tarantino it, cross-pollinating decades to get the look and feel you want, Mage 20 is very much a game of now, not then." End quote. So I think that's a really very good point to bring up, is that, when Mage first came out, it was definitely influenced by a lot of, movies and television that I guess White Wolf writers were watching at the time. So you had some pretty funky things going on, cyborg, biker gangs, of course the whole, science being evil, and then, more traditional sensibilities being good. Those were definitely issues that have been addressed in later versions of Mage, especially the revised era. And now with the newer technocracy convention books that we've been talking about on the show. So I think it's definitely just a good answer to have. What do you guys think?
I would agree that I think that the kind of classic Mage was very much kind of very 90s in that way. You can tell a lot from, again, like the artwork or the kind of short stories that are there, or the or just the way the game is really presented. So I consider the kind of magic versus science as being kind of the original kind of sort of one of the key default kind of themes of stories you could run as being quite 90s, especially because if you consider the 90s, it was, you had the millennium was on the horizon coming towards you, and everyone was hoping for this great change to occur when, the clock struck midnight and it was the year 2000 and everything would be shiny, happy and new, and we would be these uplifted by some means. So I think kind of the science versus magic kind of represented that fear of the future as well, which comes with the millennium. And I think that kind of theme for me doesn't hold much meaning now, because the millennium's gone and a lot's happened since then, and the world has moved on in some respects through great leaps and bounds, and we have some really incredible technological innovations in our hands now, or assumed to occur. But also we have some really terrible kind of backwards fundamentalist kind of issues that plague us in this apparently the future. So I think it'd be interesting to see how Mage 20 is influenced by maybe the cynicism that exists in a kind of a post, I think it's fair to say, a post 9/11 world of the 21st century, because I think whereas before, I always say this, the old World of Darkness always had, classic World of Darkness had this kind of like millennial fever where the end of the world's coming and everyone's rushing to get their house in order so that when the end comes, they win. Whereas I think New World of Darkness at least represents, and this is, I think, maybe then some of the themes that are coming into these 20th anniversary books, is that, because we haven't had the end of the world, since we can ignore now events from like Gehenna, Apocalypse, and the Ascension books and just continue these stories in some way, we now have this kind of the ennui of the slow progression into the future, and whether things really are ever going to get any better. Like, we could have stem cell research tomorrow. We could have, something else happen tomorrow, some other wonderful, holograms and all these other things. But is the world getting any better for that? We're still plagued by these age-old concerns. And it's interesting because we brought up this topic when we were talking about things like the Progenitors Convention book, and that does turn up in those books, is the idea that humanity, this kind of like this cynical feeling of humanity as a whole, is turning up for the technocracy, because essentially they have won a large proportion of the Ascension War, and they're ready to roll out a utopia for everyone. And humanity is rejecting it wholesale. They're just like, no, we want to exist in our world where, death and destruction is still commonplace. So in that respect, that's kind of a thing of humanity can't accept a utopian ideal, which is an interesting point when you consider what Agent Smith is saying to Morpheus in the first Matrix film, that they tried to create the perfect Matrix and humanity just kept waking up from it and not accepting it.
That's a very interesting point, Chris. And I think it's interesting because, when Mage Revised came out in 2001, I believe, White Wolf declared that, yes, the technocracy won, but we do see that in the real world, that's not really the case. There's still, many countries out there which are still advancing in technology and entering industrial ages, and there's still just many different cultures and different ideas that still exist. And while perhaps the Western world has become more, how do I want to put this, stabilized in its culture and beliefs, it's still very much changing in other parts of the world. And, definitely what they were thinking in Mage Revised with, the turn of the century or turn of the millennium just doesn't really seem to be the case. So, yeah, I just think it's kind of an interesting point and something to keep in mind as we discuss this. So, just to kind of move along.
Actually, I'd like to jump in here for a second.
All right, Chigg, go for it.
I disagree with Satyros Phil Brucato. Yes, Mage is definitely kind of 90s. Mage, as presented thus far, has been very 1990s. Like Chris said, all of the old World of Darkness games were plagued by millennialism, by the end is nigh, by we have to fight this final battle, and we the players come in at the last chapter, and we can jump in there and save or doom us all. That was part of the fun of it, though. Since the 90s, since the revised convention books and other World of Darkness products that have been put out, including the other kickstarted Giant Edition books, they've moved past that. They said, okay, well, maybe we were a little off on our timetable. Maybe the end is not exactly nigh. But there's still battles to be fought. There's still things to do. And I would also disagree with your assertion, Mike, that the Western world has moved beyond all of its foo-for-raw and fuzzy thinking. How many people believe in the singularity? That's been called the nerd rapture by better thinkers than I, and that's as crazy and out there as, Jesus is going to come down from the clouds and take us away. That's computers are going to come down from the clouds and take us away. It's a step to the right, but it's still not any more linear rational thought.
Right.
It'd be nice, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. Beliefs change, and that's another part of Mage.
Absolutely, yes. Very, very good point, Chigg.
I think in Mage 20, where it's different, I think it's also important to, as for comparative purposes, maybe look at the themes in Mage the Awakening, because then you get maybe a more of a feel for what Mage the Ascension was, and where maybe Mage 20 can really move into and grow and answer some things. Because a lot of the antagonistic elements in Mage the Ascension are between tradition mages and the technocracy and the Nefandi, but reality is this kind of, it's still this melting pot and grand experiment to that. If you can get in at the right point to get your idea into the gestalt, into the zeitgeist, into consensus, you're winning small battles by slowly directing the course of humanity, and reality is something that everyone can take by, can grab hold of and make some sort of change to it. Whereas if you look at Mage the Awakening, that isn't the case, because humanity as a whole and the Pentacle Mages, who are kind of like, you can kind of say are the kind of similar to the tradition mages, as in they're the main protagonists, you're trapped within the cage of reality, and you're using what little parts of occult wisdom still survive and still are able to make a change to reality. And so while in Mage you're trying to establish what you think is the best reality that could be, because you believe in that way of magic, science, whatever. In Awakening, you're fight. It doesn't matter how you do your magic. You're all fighting for the keys to reality, to take back humanity's birthright. And so in that way, they're very different. They're answering and they're telling very different stories, and that's really important to bring up, because one of the things that pissed me off. Tangent moment. Then let's just bring this up. Thank God Eddie Webb addressed, let's not have Mage 20 be and all the threads and forum talk on there be a place for people to start doing edition wanking over the different Mage games, because that pissed me off so much. So I'm glad that was addressed, because I think they are very different games.
That's true. Chigg, you could explain the differences between all the different Mage editions if you really wanted to.
I could. I believe that actually comes up later on in the FAQ, though. So we can save it for that.
Yeah, we should probably get back to that. All right. Following the structure.
Yeah.
Where the hell were we? Oh, we're at point number 2.
We're at number 3.
Okay. All right. Are you incorporating recent technological, social, and political elements? Quote. Oh yeah. End quote.
That's a given.
Okay, that's good to know.
Mage would be, I mean, playing a virtual adept without considering recent technological and social and political elements would be ridiculous. I mean, we've got smartphones, a better internet. The internet is I mean, for the virtual adepts on some level have won as well. They've won it in a big way.
I don't know.
The problem is
Have
control.
they really?
Yeah, Chris,
That's-
you
but
weren't here
see,
for a
that's-
discussion
that's the
before.
difference.
Just jump in here. We're talking about net neutrality a little bit and certain issues.
Oh yeah, well that's what I mean. They haven't won in a big way. The science is there. The control element
Yes.
is a big issue, which is the political element.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, you can't ignore recent technology and social stuff. I mean, this leads into, playing progenitors and having progenitors in the setting, because on some levels the progenitors have also achieved great things, but also massively fucking up in other ones.
Absolutely.
I think that describes aptly the technocratic paradigm.
I think
We've achieved
the
so
int-
much, but we fucked up a lot more.
Yeah, I think the technocrats is, I think, to be honest, the most exciting thing for me personally to play in a Mage 20 game is actually the technocracy. Because, the world, their kind of vision is there to a certain extent, but there are places where their timetable and their ideas have gone off in ways they did not expect. And as much as they've brought progress to the world, there's been some horrific events which they need to, deal with. And I think in some respects there might be quite a deeper story to tell with the technocracy. Maybe that is the ultimate story to say, maybe with Mage 20, with like how we're moving with technology, and you've got religious fundamentalism, you've got the resurgence of certain philosophical and religious ideas, in the sense that paganism is possibly in some areas is one of the fastest growing religions, because it's so easy to disseminate and everyone on the internet can talk about it. Is that the world now, I think maybe the theme of Mage 20 is not about science versus technology and control. To an extent, it's still control versus freedom, but is it really now the main fight between the old way of doing things, which is everything is in its nice little square, this is in its round hole, that one's in its square hole, that one's in its triangular hole, and they don't mix, and that's science, that's magic, and that's religion, that's outdated, that's philosophy, which is also outdated, that's philosophy that we're okay with. And maybe what Mage 20 is about is that there's a group of mages, maybe, and maybe a group of technocrats that are thinking, shit, by trying to get rid of certain elements, but in trying to achieve their goal, which is whatever their grand consensus paradigm is, in trying to get rid of the other elements, they've unwittingly removed certain things from reality, or at least damaged it to a point that's the reason why reality is falling apart. And
How paradoxical.
exactly, and that's
If
kind
only
of
there
like,
were a term for that in the game.
yeah, and it's almost kind of like the paradigm analogy to the ideas of oh shit, I was trying to think of the word. What were the Nazis really big on? Begins with E.
Eugenics?
Eugenics, because there's actually there's two ways you can take the term eugenics. There's actually positive eugenics and negative eugenics. So negative eugenics is removing, by genocidal means, all elements of genetic stock, right? Whereas positive is trying to enable as much diversity as possible. Because if you have enough diversity, then good things will grow out of it. Diversity is a good thing. So maybe that's the way to look at what the war for ascension is not the negative war for ascension, which is where you remove everything and you're left with the one true paradigm. but the true war now is for the diversity, and maybe that's what the traditions actually do represent, is that diversity, and that the one true paradigm is where anything goes, which is also kind of chaotic.
Very
Maybe the
much so.
Marauders hold the keys to the truest form, the best form of reality, where everyone is able to realize their own dreams.
Well, I believe that
Anyway.
was a virtual adept goal at one point, was to have
It was at
everybody
one point.
given their own personal reality.
Give them their own, virtual world, yeah. Anyway, so social, political, and technological elements.
Yeah,
which
you
are
have to
recent
include that
events.
in a game that is
Yeah.
about society and politics and technology. It's kind of a given.
Right on, right on. This is getting pretty deep, but we got to move on. All right, I'm going to combine the next couple together. All right, so how are we handling
Okay.
things that have changed since 1993? So one of the core things is that they're going to have little sidebars in the book, which are future fates, which will tell you events that have happened, canonically in the books, things that might happen, or changes from the original canonical version from previous source books, and events that never happened, but you could have some options to add in new ideas to your game as a storyteller. So in that way, much like the other V20 and W20, they have a lot of options in there for including the meta plot if you would like, and you can feel free to leave it be if necessary. And one of the core elements that a lot of people debate about on the internet is, of course, the Avatar Storm, which was an event caused by, I guess I would say it's caused by the Sixth Great Maelstrom in the Shadowlands when they exploded the Wraith, the Oblivion line, and how the mages were basically, in the revised edition, Earthbound. Really brought the focus back to Earth as opposed to, Void Engineers fighting Defendi off of the moons of Saturn and that sort of stuff going on. So the Avatar Storm is now basically optional. They're going to include a lot of information on it in your game, but you don't need to include it, and you can still play your game in that sort of pre-Avatar Storm situation, and just ignore it and pretend it never happens. So that's really a big change, and I think that's the most political thing they could do to keep people happy. Because personally, I think that the Avatar Storm mechanically was a good idea, in that it brought everyone back to Earth and made that the focus of the game, which it should be. It's a game about humanity and the growth of humanity and what these individuals can do to help guide and change it. And then when you have Star Destroyers exploding above Pluto, it's kind of taken away from that core element, I feel. So
Yeah, it depends how pulpy you want to play Mage, because I think if you play it that way, Mage becomes really high on pulp kind of style gameplay, whereas if you keep it restricted to Earth and quite local, then it becomes more kind of an occult shadow war, which is I feel more fun.
I agree with you. I was a fan of the Avatar Storm in Revised Edition because it kept people from saying, hey, we're traditionalists and we kind of screwed up and lost Earth, so let's go play in the Umbra. Yay! I don't know, it struck me as a good idea to keep things grounded.
yeah, absolutely. But if you're into that sort of more like high adventure feel and the exploration aspects of Mage, that's still going to be there. So it's a cool option should you like to use it. So here's a big one. We're already kind of discussing this, but is the Ascension War over? And I'm going to read this one aloud. Quote, "Things aren't that simple. The war is based upon different factions fighting on many different levels over what they believe in, possibly even acting out some metaphysical struggle that's bigger than human belief. And although the nature of that war has changed, the conflict still remains. Also, the world is far larger than the United States. However, and Mage, and Mage 20 takes the entire world into account. As events since 9/11 have shown, many people around the world, even in the United States, believe deeply in so-called supernatural. Science, faith, and magic can and do coexist in the real world, and Mage 20 reflects that reality as well. End quote. There we have it. This is something we've been discussing the entire time, but yeah, the Ascension War still rages on, and there's a lot of conflict between different cultures and belief systems.
I'm not sure I agree with your assessment that it rages on. I'm just being contradictory today, apparently.
I don't think it rages on. I think
It was always, until revised edition-ish, a Cold War. It was very rarely. I mean, there were some battles, I suppose, but very rarely did they, send army against army.
And in fact, that's really weird when you see that in like a source book, and they're like, I think I remember in the Void Engineer source book, they're talking about, battling against Nefandi off of the moons of Jupiter or Saturn or something, and it's like, that doesn't really seem believable.
Yeah, how many Nefandi were there, and how many of you were there?
We're talking like backstreet brawl, that sort of thing. It's
that's the kind of battling I see in the Ascension War. It's really not one that you're going to win by sending wave after wave of expendable troops against the castle in the sky.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point, because I don't see, when you put it like that, I wouldn't imagine the Void Engineers to have fleets of starships. I imagine that they have a fleet of essentially all kind of 5-man, 10-man kind of scout ships to kind of get that whole exploration. They're not fucking Starfleet as much as they want to be.
It's Firefly-sized ships, not
Yeah.
Enterprise-sized ships.
The Ascension War still goes on, but I think I was just thinking about this, is that if you imagine what we were saying about kind of the millennialism or millennial fever that was deep in the kind of the DNA of classic World of Darkness, and you could almost play up to that in that you have in the Ascension War, they're all fighting really hard because you've got the Red Star, it's coming, and whatever that means, and you've got this 2012 it's getting closer, and the Mayan calendar and all that crap. And so you've got like, the technology going, oh yeah, this is going to be our singularity is coming. We've got to, if we win there, we get our singularity, and we, humanity as a whole is uplifted. And you may have at that point, in those last days before that date, you have the traditions kind of almost feeling like they should just give up and just hide wherever they can out in the sticks of whatever back end of reality they want to go to. And so when that date comes and then passes, and they realize that, no, that isn't the end, actually, they're now into a new phase of the war for reality, and that everything they thought would be the end is not. It'd be interesting to start a game of Mage from that point where, on some deep philosophical level, a group of tradition mages bands together because they realize that whatever phase of the war for reality ended then, whatever they were fighting for then, that war is over, and maybe that war, it'd be interesting to say what that battle was for. Was that battle for the hope of humanity? And now we're into the next phase of reality where humanity doesn't really have that hope, and that it's more this, as I say, this ennui, this cynical kind of thing. And so now both technocrats and traditions are fighting against the deeply rooted entropy that comes from humanity's cynical view of reality and of how the future will be, just constant fights and technology, causing the world to fall apart. Maybe that's what the new phase of the Ascension War is not a war for what paradigm is right, but to stop humanity being so, I guess, lazy from giving up.
That was actually one of the major focuses of revised edition, where the technocracy technically won. Yeah, a car will work here, a car will work there. Technology is a for really real thing, but really just nobody cares anymore. Apathy has won. So maybe they will cover that. Maybe they'll move beyond that to something else. We shall see.
I also be interested to see how they build off the events of, because I really like the idea was transmissions.
From the Rogue Council?
Well, no, yeah, because I thought that was a good book. That was kind of interesting where they went with that. The adventure at the end of it was a bit weird, but hey.
Did they ever reveal what the Rogue Council was?
It was a...
Is that something? Is that a spoiler? I think it's 15 years later.
It might be a bit of a spoiler, but yeah. I mean, the Rogue Council was essentially just still the the Horizon Council. They were just because they were cut off. Yeah, because they were cut off. They were from reality. They were finding a new means to kind of to contact and galvanize the tradition mages into a new phase of the Ascension War, almost as if the council on Horizon realized that holding their seats there meant nothing if they couldn't fight for Earth itself.
Nice, interesting. So with that, next comment is how does Mage 20 handle the technocracy? And it says they're a playable option. Yeah, that's good. I mean,
yay!
As well, they should be.
Hell
They've been
yeah!
a playable option for at least 20 years or 15 years now.
Technocracy games rock.
yes, they are very
They're
interesting
awesome.
because of all the really the infighting and politics. They might seem like a monolithic organization from the outside, but once you get into it, there's a lot of different ideals. And we've of course been discussing that here on the show with all the convention books and all that.
The Technocracy is my second favorite kind of game to run in Mage.
Second favorite. Oh, your first favorite's Marauders?
Second favorite.
Nice.
Totes.
All right, cool. So, yeah, we can just skip that. So,
But wait, hold on. That's a good question for us. What's our favorite tradition?
okay.
Convention?
Chigg, why don't you start?
What is my favorite? Do I have to limit it to traditions and conventions?
Oh no,
You can pick a craft. You can pick whatever you want.
Oh, Himka Sobek.
Oh God, I'm racking my brains. Which ones are those?
Those are the craft that is comprised entirely of former serial killers and rapists who share the avatar of the Egyptian god of judgment, and they go out and they hunt current serial killers, kill them, and devour their liver so that their god can stay alive.
Oh wow, okay.
Because they are completely psychopathic.
Yeah,
Just utterly fucked up. But I love them.
nice. That's a really, to be honest, that's a really cool related.
It's a really, really cool idea.
Yeah, I would be quite happy using that. Maybe not having them as mages, but as some sort of cult within New World of Darkness. I think they work really well for Hunter the Vigil. That's kind of cool. That'd be a really weird kind of antagonistic group to fight against for a bunch of hunters.
They work really well for Mummy the Curse. What if
Oh, God, yeah.
this one mummy gets Secum from the livers or something like that?
Oh, I think we have to wait until we learn some more stuff about Mummy the Curse. There's still some books coming out
Alright,
which will
okay.
reveal more truths about the deceived and so forth. And the Anuksu, I can't remember. What's it? The Anuk...
Those guys. The nuts.
Anuksukunkan, that's the one or whatever. Yeah. Everyone can guess what my favourite tradition is. It's obvious.
Virtual Adepts?
Yeah, it's just... They're great. I thought their revised tradition book was really spot on, and I think they'd be even more interesting and exciting to play in this day and age because their paradigm would be so easy to work through so much stuff.
Interesting. Well, my favorite tradition / craft is actually the Ali Batini.
Oh, classic.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think the reason was that when I first picked up Dark Ages Mage, that's my first exposure to them, and really Mage in general. Reading through, they seem like this really interesting sort of, I want to say, pacifist version of Islam and that sort of thing, which I just thought was very interesting at the time. I was taking also like a world religions class and that sort of thing, kind of learning about that stuff. So they always just struck me as this very interesting faction that I really wanted to kind of explore and do some stuff with, especially considering some of the political climate at the time. because that was back in like 2004 that I was reading about them. So, yeah, I've always been just pretty interested in them.
I guess in light of Assassin's Creed and how that relates to the assassins and their origins. Yeah, I would say the Alabar team would be really cool to play with
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely.
They really fit. I mean, you want to do parkour and you can control space.
Yep.
Awesome. I would say other bits I really liked, which other favourites that turn up. I liked all the, in the guide to the traditions, it had all the technologically based sub-factions of the traditions. So you had the, within the cult of ecstasy, House Stagg, of course, of the Order of Hermes. Those all seemed really interesting. And I think, again, because they kind of represent maybe where the Ascension War is maybe moving to, is that, where groups are incorporating diverse elements of magic together to create something new. Yeah.
Nice. And to just go through the next couple comments, yes, they're going to deal with crafts. They're not gone. The Nefandi and the Marauders will be in the book. I should hope so, because they've been in every core book.
Woohoo! That's a playable faction.
They will be there in glorious
playable
detail, they
Nefandi?
say. I would think that they would probably
God.
give some basic rules. I mean, they're all based off of the same big purple paradigm. So,
Yeah. So we're going to get the Klipothic spheres.
we might.
I would be amazed if they included the Klipothic spheres in the core book, because I believe that they say later on they're not including all of the technocratic spheres.
Unfortunate.
Or maybe they are.
And of course, we're going to have lots of information on the Umbra and the digital web.
Yeah, this word would be dumb to leave out in this day and age.
Who uses the internet? Come on.
Everyone that listens to the show. So, the next thing, of course, is that there's not going to be much crossover material for vampire or werewolf, but that's kind of to be expected. V20 and W20 didn't really have any crossover material, so...
They're saving it for the book they include with the storyteller screen, right?
Maybe?
Right?
Maybe.
That's how it works in the past.
I don't know how good the crossover material they provide as in how to resolve some of the, obviously, you want a party which has a werewolf and a vampire and a mage in it. I roll my eyes at that for Classic World of Darkness because you've got so many different things to address. Yeah, but whatever, if they can include it, great.
Absolutely. And then there's a couple comments about magic, and I'm really going to skip the first two, which is really just discussing why they put a K at the end of magic. And you can definitely read Phil's justification for that, which is all actually pretty interesting. But did you revise Mage's magic system? Now, let's read this out loud. Quote, "We fixed a number of flaws, clarified a lot of muddy subjects, and had plenty of optional rules, but did not change the essential system. My brain trust and I worked hard to bring out the best elements of Mage's freeform magic rules without making the changes that would mess up over 20 years of source material." End quote. Well, there we go. Still going to be casting with your arete and spheres, and of course, there's going to be vulgar and non-vulgar and all that. So it's still there. Yeah. Any comments on the magic rules?
I would imagine that given the type of people that worked on this, and obviously to whatever extent they've learned things since then and worked on another game called Mage, I'm going to guess they'll have more examples of rotes within Mage 20.
Yes, I think that's a good idea.
Because rotes in classic Mage were always talked about as this thing that's really useful, but it was never really... They weren't often codified, and not codified to the greatest extent compared to, say, Mage the Awakening. And in Mage the Awakening, rotes are a really important kind of social collateral. There's something to be traded. And I think that's the one thing that M20 was kind of missing, was just the amount of just examples.
Okay, I'm as big a fan of rotes as anybody, and I really hope that somebody at Onyx Path has figured out what the hell you do with Prime, because they included that in way too many rotes and that were completely unnecessary. But as far as trading rotes amongst people, that's all well and good as long as you have at least a similar paradigm.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
But like in the other Mage games for the New World of Darkness, the Awakening, they all basically share one fairly similar paradigm. In Mage the Ascension, if you're playing a Verbena and you want to teach your virtual adept how to do something that you do by drawing blood and calling down the moon goddess or whatever, that's going to be a really tough translation.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if you can really use rotes the way that they do for all things in the New World of Darkness as you could in the Old World of Darkness, or vice versa.
I guess it would be just a case of how much roleplay you want to put in, depending upon how different a group's paradigm is, and spending the appropriate experience to represent the philosophical hurdles that would have to be covered. Because I think that would have to obviously depend upon the storyteller and how it's run. But I imagine that teaching a rope between, say, the Order of Hermes and, in particular, Order of Hermes from one of their sub-factions, can't remember the name, that is rather mathematically minded, them teaching a rope to a virtual adept for how you heal someone, they've got different hurdles and to cover compared to, as I say, a Verbena or a Dream Speaker. But that's cool. I mean, that's good storytelling stuff. That's always good fun. Where an Order of Hermes and a virtual adept just go, yeah, we're actually both just working with numbers, and you're just manipulating information in a slightly different way to how I am, and that's kind of cool.
All right, nice. Let's just move on to the next one. So does M20 include path-based sorcery, the pillars from Dark Ages Mage, the technocratic spheres, or the magic system from Mage of the Awakening? Okay. And the answer is, quote, yes, Mage 20 does include the technocratic spheres and an optional section in the magic rules chapter. But no, we did not include the other stuff, because this book is already really huge, and that material would not have fit into its already titanic word count. End quote. All right, awesome that they have the technocratic spheres, but, Chigg, really wish they had, updated, revised rules for the Dark Ages Mage pillars.
Man, you and me both. I'm a fan.
Yeah. The pillars were great.
It's just such a great rule
Pillars
system.
were, in my opinion, they were an improvement over the spheres in Arete. It made paradigm much more obvious to your player.
It made Mage, I would say it made Mage more accessible for players.
Indeed. Very much.
It would be nice to have a way of playing Mage where you start with pillars, even the something that's analogous for pillars for, Mage 20, so as in modern day mages that have, where you run it just off pillars, and then have some sort of, as players get more advanced, they have the choice to transition to sphere-based, because pillars really told you exactly what you could and couldn't do with your paradigm. Like, you could set fire to something, but this other group really just couldn't just throw fireballs because the paradigms were so different.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
You could do anything you wanted to with any with any set of foundations and pillars. It was just much harder to justify. For example, the Ali Battini had a fire pillar, so throwing that fireball, it's pretty easy to do. But if you're playing one of the Valderman, it's harder to justify. You'd have to, I think Chigg used the example of crafting an explosion rune or something to create that ball of fire, that sort of blast.
Sure. It can be done, but it's not. It's much easier for Group A than it is for Group B, and that is paradigm in a nutshell.
Absolutely, which is just one of the great things. The only issue I see with foundations and pillars is that they kind of do set the one group, like a tradition or crafts paradigm, in stone, really. And it's going to be a bit more difficult, I think, to to have that sort of interesting variety with paradigms. This one, Son of Ether, is going to be a mad scientist, and another one is Chigg's old character who was abducted by aliens, so he has that kind of like alien technology feel to him. And another one who was a dirt bike mechanic, and then just makes everything out of like cool diesel engines and that sort of thing. So it might be more difficult, but they could put in a system that would be interesting. Little tweaks you can add in, maybe like mini pillars or some sort of small merits that could adjust foundations and pillars. Just to kind of bring things back and explain how the pillar and foundation system works in Dark Ages Mage. Essentially, each fellowship, that's what they're called in Dark Ages Mage, has foundation, one singular foundation, and then multiple pillars. And with those, they cast their magic. So the foundation for the Order of Hermes, I think, is really just the basic kind of big purple paradigm kind of arete, basically. And then they have multiple sub-pillars, one maybe dealing with fire-based magic, another one dealing with
spirits.
I don't remember them specifically off the top of my head. I have to go grab the book. It might be easier for me to talk about the Ali Bettini. So they have their one kind of correspondence foundation, really, and then they have a pillar about fire, a pillar about, I think there's one about Hajj, which is very warlike and conflict-based. So from there, you kind of mix and match the pillars and come up with your spell that you want to use. So, for example, that fireball is going to focus on the fire pillar. But if you want to correspond over long distances, well, that mostly might just be focused on a different pillar and your foundation. So that's kind of how you justify the spells within your paradigm. And as with the example we used before, casting a fireball, it would be very easy for the Ali Bettini to do. So he might only need, one dot in that fire pillar. But for the Valderman to make explosive runes or something like that, essentially maybe he'd be creating gunpowder in some ways. He'd need to use many different pillars and provide a rather complex justification for what he's doing. So that's kind of Dark Ages Mage foundations pillars in a nutshell. So there we go. It's a really interesting system. I know there's some complaints about it. I was attacked on the old White Wolf forums for supporting it when people were complaining that the Order of Hermes they can't do as much with the Dark Ages Mage system. They don't have every single access to every single sphere, which is, I guess that limits them compared to the modern ages, but maybe it's game balance.
Well, I should point out that, canonically, the reason that there are 9 spheres and that it's controlled by Arete is because when the council got together, the Order of Hermes, who had the biggest guns in the room, said, this is how magic works. And they imposed their will upon everybody else there. And so reality changed so that, sure enough, that's how magic works. Mm. So in Mage, the reason that the Order of Hermes are right is because the Order of Hermes said a long time ago, we're right, this is how it works.
Pretty much.
And everybody else kind of went along with that.
Cool. All right, so I think that's it for, obviously there's not going to be Mage the Awakening's magic system, although I'm sure Chris would love that.
Oh, there's a translation guide already out for that.
Oh, damn, you're right. Of course. They've already done that. Great.
Again, isn't it one of the things that people would quite happy playing Mage Ascension using Mage the Awakening's rule set, just as people are happy playing Vampire the Masquerade using Vampire the Requiem, because the newer rule set better reinforces core themes of the games without letting things get overpowered or just going a bit, derpy, I guess. Anyway. What's the next thing?
Well, I'm going to skip over the next couple ones because they're not too relevant. So we're going to jump down to how are you dealing with paradigms and foci? And I think that's a very good topic since we were just discussing paradigms. So let's just read this one aloud. Quote, a mage changes reality through the force of belief. And so Mage 20 combines a character's belief or paradigm, practice, originally known as magic style, and instruments, originally called foci, into a single category, focus. Focus reflects what your mage does in order to make things happen. That character's belief beliefs guide his practice, the practice directs his actions, and the instruments turn those actions into results. A computer-based techno-mystic, for example, believes that she can change the reality code. She uses the practice of reality hacking, which employs instruments like information technology and computer codes, in game terms, a language. Mage 20 features an array of paradigms, practices, and instruments, all of which can be combined in nearly infinite ways to suit the character you choose. This way, you build the mage and her abilities outward from her beliefs, using an integrated approach to magic that suits the character you create. End quote. That sounds freaking great. That seems like it's a very good way to help build up paradigm within the existing Mage the Ascension system. What do you think, Chigg?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like the way it should always have been done.
You gotta let it age. You gotta let it age, Chigg, and here we go. So, okay, I don't think we have much to say about that other than, yeah, it's pretty good. We support you, Phil.
Mage the Awakening does that, right? To an extent, you have each of your pentacle mages. It's kind of like it's not quite a paradigm, but it's a way that you it gives you the basis on how you enact magic. It gives you your practices. And then on top of that, you can overlay legacies. And then within all those groups, you can choose what kind of your focus is. So you can there's it's kind of like in this box there are numerous tools that you can use to still make your character quite different to all other ones in there. So no, it's kind of cool to have that. I mean, that's really needed because it then means you can use an array of paradigms, practices, and instruments. It'd be interesting what you could come up with that.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Maybe they'll include some further articles later. Should be good. So I'm going to actually skip down a couple more sections to a question that's near and dear to my heart. Will I be able to understand the damn magic rules this time? Quote, I hope so. Unlike previous editions, Mage 20 addresses rules in a straightforward language. The florid metaphysical tangents get confined to the first 5 chapters where the setting concepts are explored. Every system has examples of those rules in action. I've kept the explanations as simple as possible. End quote. Satyros Phil Brucato, you, sir, are a godsend. I've definitely had issues with Mage in the past where I just not sure what's going on. You got your coincidental, you got your vulgar, you've got your prime. I don't know what that means. A lot of the times I'm not really sure what correspondence really is supposed to translate to in most of these paradigms. Except for maybe like virtual adepts or the Battini, of course.
But I could explain it to you real fast.
Well, yeah, I mean it's communication over distance, but how do you justify it in a lot of these?
Correspondence is a mystical term for, the planet Jupiter corresponds to power. It's connections. Had they called it that from the beginning, like they did in the Sorcerer's Crusade, it would have made much more sense.
It is that Jupiter represents power, but that's
right. It is that if that is your paradigm. Yes.
Yeah.
That is indeed a connection that Jupiter has.
Yeah. So correspondence is literally how in your paradigm do things connect. So in the virtual adept sense, everything is connected because we are a manifestation of Platonic reality. There's a higher reality that's just maths and numbers and information, and everything can be boiled down to, and all of those formula are connected to each other. Yada 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 yada. All you need to do is reskin that with, say, dream speakers. You've got hierarchy of gods and spirits. Reskin it for celestial choristers. Everything's connected because you have God and you have his hierarchy of celestial angels who form choirs. Reskin it for Verbena, you could almost go into something to do with tautologies and to do with how plants and life is all interconnected.
It's a circle of life.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, for the technocrats, it's obviously how money is connected if you're going to be like the syndicate, or it's just how things are actually connected in real life, to do with the elements and.
Did you see the data sphere?
In
It
what?
replaces correspondence in
In the virtual adept. In the
no,
virtual
no, no,
adept
no,
in
no. It
Technocracy.
wasn't virtual adepts. It was a technocratic sphere. They replaced
Yes.
correspondence with data, and that
Yeah.
was just a perfect example.
Which is basically just a technocratic interpretation of what the virtual adepts have, because they have the data sphere in their revised book. So it's the same thing, which makes sense because the virtual adepts were technocrats. Yeah, so correspondence is fun. Prime is always a weird one. I mean,
Prime
Yeah.
has 3 uses. It's used for counter magic. It's used for meta magic, which is where you're affecting your or somebody else's magical spell. And it's used for creating something out of nothing, where
Yeah.
both something and nothing are defined inside your paradigm, which makes it super weird.
but it's important, yeah, the florid metaphysical tangents are kept out of the actual
Yep.
explanations of the rules is helpful, because you just don't need rules going off into some weird description. Yeah, that'll be cool.
Absolutely. And it'll probably be a lot. The rules will probably be a lot shorter, definitely, because I mean, the actual magic system, once you get down to actually figuring out how you roll the dice, it's you just make your dice pool and then you roll it. And it's really not that complicated, so that should make things a lot easier for players to read quick.
The basic rules for Magic will be simple. The things which they will expand upon, I hope, without so much, again, removing the florid, verbose talk and just getting down to this is what this sphere lets you do, because you just don't need arguments where people complain, well, this sphere should let me do this. It's like, no, it doesn't. No, fuck off. Stop trying to explain why your Verbena is able to turn a starship into a giant plant. All right. There's some stuff like where I think this is the problem with why that'll be great is because Mage is open to abuse by its very nature. Anyway.
I like it. All right. Next up, really easy one.
Good.
Will Archmastery be in Mage 20? Quote, no it won't. End quote. All right. Were there problems with that, Chigg?
As originally published, if you had 5 dots in a sphere, congratulations, you were god of that sphere. You could do anything with it that you wanted. If you had 5 dots in matter, hey, you are the master of matter. You can create, you can destroy, you can bend, fold, mutilate, whatever you want. And then they came out with Archmastery, which added another 5 dots, which were just stupidly ridiculous. There was no need for them.
All right, good to know. And with that, let's move on to the last comment on FAQ Part 1.
It's a very important question.
Can I turn a vampire into a lawn chair? I'm not even going to read the answer. Chigg, what do you think?
Yes, because they are both matter.
All right. Good. That's the official Chigg answer. Chris, what do you think?
About what?
Turning vampires into lawn chairs.
Who the hell gives a damn?
That's actually a much better answer than mine. Go with that.
Well, the official Satyros Phil Brucato answer is, quote, only if you're willing to deal with the consequences. End quote. I think it's a wonderful answer. And, well, it's a very good point.
If it involves a table being flipped in real life, then that's a major consequence.
Yes, that could happen. I just think it's
consequence in Mage games.
It's actually a really good answer because it reinforces the fact that, really a lot of this game is about consequences and the hubris of mages.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a good point. It kind of reinforces that. Good. So, just to kind of wrap things up, this was supposed to be a short episode, but apparently not. But part 2 of the FAQ is mostly questions about the product and that sort of thing. They do not expect to be reprinting the Mage Taro as one of the stretch goals, but it could be its own Kickstarter, a reward sometime in the future, which is definitely pretty cool.
Surely you can not get the Mage Tarot via drive-through cards?
I was wondering about that myself, but apparently they said that one of the that the files are just too old and they're not high enough quality.
They're using that excuse again.
I've heard it
Well,
before.
they just have to scan them. They'll need to get a good copy of them and scan them, maybe, and remaster them. Whatever. Yeah, I'm sure something will be worked out in the future.
Yep, scan them, then Photoshop, and just kind of clean it up a little bit. Could work. So, just something we want to go through with the second FAQ is that they mentioned who's involved with Mage 20th. So I think we wanted to kind of go through and maybe kind of be like, hey, that person's cool as we go through and name some of these classic writers and new writers that are working on this project. So just kind of looking through, and you guys can feel free to kind of jump in here. Rochelle Sabrina Udell, I believe, co-wrote Revelations of the Dark Mother, if I remember correctly, which is a very interesting classic World of Darkness, Vampire the Masquerade sort of prop book regarding Lilith. And,
It's a really
the
good
Bahari.
book.
Yeah, it's a very high quality one. Chigg and I have actually discussed doing a segment on it because there's a lot of interesting ideas for Vampire the Masquerade, which were not really expanded upon too much in the later game line, but definitely some really cool stuff. Skipping ahead to some people I recognize, of course, Jackie Casada and Nikki Ria. Chigg, they are a threat. All right, they're a threat to you becoming line developer or something like that for Changeling 20th. So watch out, man.
I am perfectly all right with letting them have it. I really enjoyed the books that were developed for Changeling under those two. They can take it and run.
Nice. They also did a lot of work on Ravenloft, both the Wizards of the Coast and the Sword and Sorcery lines. So high quality writers. And then we've got Bill Bridges, pretty well known. Just did Werewolf, Mage, Promethean,
Couple
Fading
little
Suns.
projects.
Yeah.
A lot of. He did Chigg. He's the person who wrote Hunters Hunted, #1.
He's all right in my book.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, he's a solid writer.
Jesse Heinig, of course, was the revised era line developer for Mage the Ascension, so very well known. Made a lot of interesting and somewhat controversial, of course, decisions in revised line, but I think he's done some phenomenal work. And then we've got John Sneed, who's very well known for his Mage the Ascension work. John Sneed. You remember him? He does a lot of other books now.
I'm just looking at his list, his bibliography on the White Wolf Wiki. Oh no, he's going to be great then. He's done a lot of cool stuff on his list. Wow, he's worked on such a diverse amount of things as well.
Absolutely.
Going from Trinity, Mage the Ascension, Exalted, and Changeling the Lost. In fact, he worked on Victorian Lost, Wicked, and Geist.
Worked on Eclipse
I'm
Phase.
I'm sure he will then bring. This is the thing. I think there's a good number of writers on there which will bring, who span classic and New World of Darkness, such that I feel then Mage 20 will be modernized in the appropriate manner.
Absolutely. Hey Chigg, John Sneed's gonna be pretty all right in your book. Want to know why?
Okay. Why is that?
He helped write the Laundry RPG.
I'm in.
All right. Sounds good. Of course, let's look at some of the sweet artists they've got. Who we have here? Vince Locke, always well known. Andrew Trebold, yep. Jeff Holt, I know him. Christopher Shy with his sweet Photoshop artwork. And all the revised tradition book covers and convention books, right? He did all the
And they've
books.
also got Michael Kaluta. Awesome.
And then, of course, my favorite, John Cobb. This stuff's always great. Great that we've got him back. And then the person that's doing the kind of two-page splat illustrations, the portraits for the book, is Echo Chernick. And he's done some pretty interesting stuff so far. Definitely high-quality artwork, so that's cool to see. Steve Prescott, another well-known guy. And the other one I recognize here is Jeff Lubenstein, who was actually FASA's art director. I think he's currently, for the new FASA Games Incorporated, he's the art director, Chris. So you never know, you might brush elbows with him in the future.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Wicked. Yeah, I'll have to see what I can find if he's done any sketches or ideas somewhere for Fading Suns, find out which pieces he's worked on recently.
Nice. Okay, so I think that's really it for the FAQ. So do we have any like final closing remarks about Mage 20th? Some of the exciting, passionate remarks? Come on, Chigg. I know you're pumped.
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. They've already got my pledge. Some of the stretch goals look really fun.
What stretch goals have they hit so far, and which ones are coming up?
Dozen of them they've hit so far. They kind of blew past their initial goal within a half a day.
Yeah, I'll read them out just so people can find out what's going on with it. So stretch goals, t-shirts, okay,
mm-hmm. And kind of
cool.
meh about the t-shirts.
Yeah, people will hear about that in the after show for 10 minutes or something. All right, Character Pack 1. So they're actually releasing sort of like, I don't want to say like Children of the Revolution, because that was very expansive character write-ups, but they're making kind of a rogues gallery of different characters in Mage the Ascension. I'd like to say it's kind of like Children of the Night, that source book for Vampire the Masquerade Revised. So it's going to give you stats and the stories for different characters and kind of be plug-and-play interesting NPCs for your game. The next stretch goal, was actually a quick start. And the really cool thing about this stretch goal was that once we funded it, Rich Thomas said he's actually going to print up a bunch of copies of this for Free RPG Day. So Excellent. Not only are backers going to get a copy of this, but you've also now have physical copies coming out that you can pick up at the store, or let other people pick up the game as well. Art budget increases. Okay. Oh, here's the really critical one. Sphere magic. I think I need to actually read out what this stretch goal is. Okay. At a contribution level of blah blah blah. Quote: every backer who pledged the reward for a reward containing a Mage 20th PDF will receive a copy of How Do You Do That? Practical Guide to Sphere Magic PDF. This illustrated 60,000 plus word game system overview of common magics and rules for running them successfully. Yes, finally, they have a source book telling you how this magic system really actually works. Kind of like an idiot's guide. And I think they should probably done that 20 years ago, but at least we got it now.
Maybe 15 years ago would have been fine.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Extra bookmarks, okay. Book of Secrets, which is a lot of like extra ideas and cut material that didn't make it into the book. More tradition t-shirts. Familiar Strangers, which is another character pack. Mage the Ascension Anthology, should be cool. Pay bump for the writers, that's always nice. Book of Secrets 2, so even more extra ideas that were cut from the original edition. And then finally, more tradition t-shirts. They're really pushing those t-shirts. Awesome.
They must have got a deal. That's the only thing I can think of.
Well, I mean, it's all print on demand, so
yeah.
I guess they were just like, let's just make a bunch of t-shirts, and they're excited about it.
They are excited about it.
Nice.
Which is good because somebody should be excited about it.
And what have we got coming up? We've got a
third character
pack 3, which is Gods and Monsters, which is awesome. I think that's a really good PDF to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ultra Deluxe Mage 20th.
Yeah, which is kind of weird because one of their frequently asked questions was, can we add on pledges to get an extra big deluxe edition? And they said no. But here is an Ultra Deluxe Mage edition. So
yeah, that's interesting.
Embedded lenticular Mage tarot card that transforms from the original depiction of Dante as the magician to a flaming card to a burned batter. Oh wow, that's kind of weird but cool.
It's the 1990s hollow foil cover.
Yeah,
so it really
oh my
is
God.
a callback.
They actually figured out how to make one?
Apparently so.
Oh man, I'm totally not going to back that, but
They should have just put like actually that'd be really cool. I'll say this now: if Rich Thomas does it, he needs to send me a free copy of the Ultra Deluxe one when they do it. Idea for Wraith 20. The cover for the Ultra Deluxe one is holographic, so it looks like the ghosts are within the book. That would be
man.
wicked.
That's really nice.
A holographic book cover would be really, really creepy.
I still like it just glowing in the dark, and that it still glows in the dark 20 years later.
Why? What do they paint it with radon or like?
Yeah, pretty much.
Fuck.
It's nuclear.
Yeah.
It glows in the dark, and none of us can have children. But
It's not long.
Fair
now.
trade.
It's not too long. I am looking forward to Demon's Descent book because it will fit with the rest of the New World of Darkness books on that matter. Because Mummy doesn't quite look the same as the other ones. But yeah, cool. Oh, that's it for the stretch goals. Then there's nothing else announced yet.
Yep, that's it.
So they're on. What's their current total? I'm just looking at it here. Current total is
$60,000.
Yep. I'm thinking, I think this one might get up to Exalted levels. It might not surpass it, but it's going to get close.
Yeah.
And that's going to be huge. All right, so I think that's it for Mage the Ascension. I think we discussed the 20th Anniversary Edition in quite a bit of detail. We're definitely all pretty pumped for it, and yeah, should be a good time. So with that, I think it's time for closing remarks. And one important thing that we didn't cover at the beginning of the show is that we have a reward to give out, don't we, Chris?
Ooh, yeah, we do.
Yeah. So let me open up our Darker Days Radio Gmail account and kind of discuss some of the cool stuff we got here. So, of course, we had a contest for a copy of the Strix Murder Chronicle, Blood and Smoke, a hardcover, POD copy that we'll be sending out. And we asked for people to tell us what vampire clans each of the hosts would be, or what our favorite is. As you remember last time, I tried to make this sweet computer program, and it exploded as I was randomly determining who won. I did fix it on the show, but this time I'm going to be using a 10-sided die to determine who the winner is. But before we do that, let's just kind of, show some highlights of what different people would be. So, of course, Kaz mentioned that I was totally a follower of Set because I'm so opposed to it, and that's exactly what a Setite would say. Great.
Sounds legit.
Yeah, pretty much. Patrick Warren mentions quite a bit, and he in fact says that Chris is clearly a Chiasid. He's a Fade-tainted vampire, a Lozambra bloodline. But he also brings up that due to your scholarly pursuits, Chris, in Vampire the Requiem, you're clearly a Mekket of the Aganatis bloodline.
I can see that.
You're obsessed with the fog of eternity and how to overcome it. I think that's quite fitting for you, sir.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that.
And Patrick also mentions, Chigg, that you're clearly a true Bruja. Just throwing it out there.
Obviously. I time travel on a daily basis.
Well, you're roaming the countryside in search of wisdom.
Oh.
Yep. But then, of course, we have another Chris, who spells it just like Chris does here, who mentions that I'm a true Bruja and almost certainly part of the Talmahara. Could be. And he says that Chigg is a Chiasid, a fey-blooded vampire with a polite lean.
I am pretty polite.
Indeed. What? Okay. Sorry, I haven't looked at some of these in a while. All right, I'm just going to read out all of Anthony's. Mike would be a changeling hunting Chiasid. Why is every single one of us a Chiasid? This is awesome. Chigg would be a Gangrel, and Chris would be a Tremere with a primary focus of technomancy. I think that's pretty fitting. Yeah. That's a good one. All right, we have Eric over here, who actually gave Mark, a vampire clan. So he says that Mark would be a Vampire the Requiem Nosferatu, and part of the Belial's brood. He's kind of hanging back and being pretty quiet, and nothing good can come of that. Of course, he also mentions that I'm a Ventru, one of the Holy Engineer bloodline members, and I'm using this podcast in service to the callings of the God Machine. Uh-oh, better watch out. And of course, Chigg is a Nosferatu. He's a member of the Seven Sect, and he's just waiting. Biding his time. That's what they think of you, Chigg.
I'm not sure I believe that at all.
I'm pretty sure everyone thinks that you're conniving. That's what I'm getting here.
Wow.
All right, we can see what Michael Parker says here. Chris, you are a Mekket and one of the Circle of the Crone. I think that's a good one. That's a good
interesting.
One. And Chigg, this one surprises me, but you never know. You're a Deva. You're one of the Unbound. So you're just a guy out there just looking to have a good time.
Who sent this one in? Who sent this in exactly? Do I know this person? Who was this?
Hey, I don't know. Maybe he knows you. Oh, here's another good one. And Oysen says, Mike is clearly a Toreador Antitribu. Yeah, thanks, Oyson. I didn't know I was some crazed fetishist vampire. Thanks.
Well, you do make, lampshades out of human skin. So
Well-
to be perfectly fair,
Allegedly. I allegedly do that.
I saw a nipple and a tattoo, Mike.
What?
Well, obviously Mike is going to the local dungeon in his shirt woot.
Oh, yes, my graphic tees, yeah. Chris is a freed gargoyle. Interesting.
What?
Yeah, I'm not sure where that one came from. And Chigg is, guess what? A true Broja. So I think that looking at all these different entries, we're all time-traveling chaosid searching for wisdom.
Yes.
I think that's what all three of us are.
I just hope that my next leap will be the leap home.
Oh, man. That was a good show. All right, and now I'm going to roll the die and see who the winner is. I got a 9, so that doesn't... I have to reroll. I got an 8, so I still have to reroll. Only 7 entries for a free book.
Yeah, I know.
Surprising. Oh, number 6, it's Michael Parker. All right, congratulations, Michael. We'll be in contact with you soon for your free copy of
Congratulations,
Blood and Smoke. And with that, well, it's the end of our show. So, Chris, where can people get in contact with us?
I don't know. Yeah, of course, people can get in contact with us via email at darkerdaysradio@gmail.com, or they can find us on Twitter at darkerdaysradio, or they can find us on Facebook, Darker Days Radio, or they can find us on Google Plus, where we have a community which is growing. We've got over 230 members. We may be one of the smaller World of Darkness communities, but we are at least one of the most active, with conversations going on fairly frequently. We also have a Darker Days Radio blog, which can be found at, let me just check. I think it's just darkerdaysradio.blogspot something or other. Anyway, yeah, it's on Blogger. You can find us there. We also have a Tumblr, which I don't do enough on, but there is a Darker Days Radio Tumblr. And I believe that is it. Oh, and of course YouTube, where all the episodes go up. I still need to upload the most recent Darker Days Radio, which was actually our actual play of using the God Machine Chronicles rules.
Nice. Should be good. All right, I think that's it for this episode. So I hope you all enjoyed listening a little bit about Mage the Ascension, and we'll be back next time with a really full and complete episode. I think we're actually going to be talking about Mage the Ascension again, aren't we, Chigg?
We might. That might happen.
We need to get that segment done.
And we will finally do our Vampire the Requiem Blood and Smoke review, and I guess Demon the Descent review, considering they run off the same rule set.
Absolutely. So, that's it for this episode of Darker Days Radio. And everyone, have a good night. Ooh, a V-neck. Yeah. Can wear that out clubbing.
Yeah. I mean,
It's a show-
if you went out clubbing wearing one of those, then I'm sure it'd be great for like a 90s theme party, maybe.
Oh my god, yes. They have 90s night. Where is that place? Ah, I need to go. I'll get the Bruges one and go with the V-neck, and that'll be fucking amazing.
But like, hold on, if I just click on the
$30 for a V-neck shirt.
Well, it's American Apparel, so it's high quality.
Is that actually high quality? I don't even know.
No, that's. I mean, it's not poor quality, but it's not something great.
Yeah, when you say $30, it's because all my prices are in euros, so yeah, they're okay prices, I guess. I mean, they're not massively. It's not charging you much more than say if you went shopping in H&M for something that's kind of equivalent.
Yeah.
With some
Well, I mean,
dirt
but we
print
got
on it.
like over here we got like Woot shirt, so you can get for $12 a sweet graphic tee.
Yeah.
So that's like
You
kind
can
of
go
like
to T
comparison.
Fury and get one for like $11.
Oh well, fine.
I mean, they change every day.
Well, yeah, same thing with
But
Woot.
like the whole problem with a lot of these things, for me anyway, is the sizing, because you know
Yeah, we use American sizes. Get one
yeah.
down.
So
Oh god, I know.
you know,
I can finally fit into a small shirt pretty well. After gaining like 30 pounds over the past year. Oh my god. Oh, I need to buy this shirt on Woot. This is amazing. Look at this penguin.
what? Hold on.
That's adorable.
Yes, it is. Oh my god. Hold on, guys. Gotta delay the episode for a little bit. By the way, I'm recording this, so it might just be tacked on at the end of the show.
Yeah. Hold on, I was gonna look for where it's if I find Dinobot. Oh yeah, so that's that one. So all this stuff on Redbubble is the designs that my friend does. She recently moved to India with her partner because he's working for some AAA computer games there as their... Is Steve now like head design principal character artist, which is
Nice.
sounds like a pretty cool job.
Except he has to live in India for it, so I mean, minor
Yeah.
details.
Apparently it's not too bad over there. They it's because he's being paid enough that, and it's pretty typical over there that you pay for housekeeping and so forth. So it's kind of a new experience for them to, have a housekeeper and everything. But yeah, Heather does all this stuff, and I think there are some products which are if you go on the photographic prints, not that one, maybe not. Oh right, so it's Dinobot tees. That's the bit. That's it. Sorry. If I give you that link, not Dinobot, but this one, that's all her stuff specifically. And then you see the epic paintings. So those are all the art that she did based on our Changeling the Lost game.
Wait, that's on Redbubble?
Mm-hmm.
What? Epic paintings. Nice.
World of Darkness inspired epic paintings.
Oh.
So yeah, those are all the character art that she did for our Changeling the Lost game. That's only 3 of the characters. I don't know if she's ever going to do the other 3 characters that there are.
That dude with the guitar is pretty bamf. What's his story?
So he's a musician who got taken by the True Fae and got taken to this realm where he basically existed as a sound. And but it was a realm that was like completely dark. So that's why he's like a darkling changeling. But he's from like, I think New Orleans or something. And then when he escaped the Fae, he arrived in Venice. So he basically, busks in Venice, which, is fairly normal.
Sorry, I'm still buying this shirt on Woot. Just gonna have to stall for a little bit more. I was hoping there'd be more of a story for that character.
The other characters you've got there are... The one on the left is... So it says Fracky. Yeah, she's she was taken from, like, pre-Bronze Age Britain, so she's been away from the from the real world a long time, and got back and is part I think meant to be part wolf, so is a shit. Why can't I even think of the name of type of changelings they are? Oh, whatever.
Wildlings?
I don't think it's
Something like that?
I don't know why I can't remember the terms. Fairest, Darklings, what's the other ones? Beasts, there we go. Yeah, beast seeming. And then the other one in the middle is Sam's character, who is a water elemental, and is kind of combines a water elemental with being also a siren. Okay, Mike.
Sorry, I need my adorable graphic tees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you go out clubbing in those quite often, do you?
No, I usually wear a shirt with a collar, like everyone else. Speaking of which, some girl tried to beat me up in the bar last night. Yeah.
What did you do?
I was just like kind of dancing around, then like I guess my head hit her head, but it was like from behind. And then turned around and I was like, whoa, I'm really sorry. And she's like, what are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. She's like gonna fight me. And then we were like, let's just get out of here. I already apologized. Why you even still here? And that's how we danced away.